Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in this live premiere. Appreciate it. Today, as you can tell by the title of this video, we've got quite an interesting analysis to do. We're also continuing on the discussions with Chase Venstra and the events that occurred around on the day of the 25th of May 2022 to fully understand that, to tie up loose ends. Weezer has provided another bit of additional information behind it. Be reading it out. I believe the area where Chase actually was. We can also go onto the maps as well. For ease of access this time, I might just use the standard maps. We'll see which works best, just to visually tell the story as well, so it's easier for you to understand. But also, and maybe more importantly, we're actually going to be doing a bone analysis and comparison today. Of course, Lance Kelly has been continuously exploring out there, attempting to look for Dylan Rounds. Not everyone agrees with what he's doing, but others do support him. Okay, so there is a bit of a split down, but it is what it is. And along the way, he has found many bones. And because of the frequency of it and the amount found and where they're found, maybe desensitization has taken place, in which you come across the odd few bones, you might be a little bit excited or more so shocked, surprised, as for like the viewer. But then the more you start seeing them, the less reactional you become, right? Of course, those in environments that have come across bones themselves, it's probably nothing new or out of the ordinary to them. But for other people who may not be in those type of environments or even country, it might seem a little odd, okay? When I've been covering the Canivich case in the past, looking at the Mojave Desert, Jerme Canyon and the surrounding areas through hikers' footage, there was a lot of bones and skulls found, all animal, okay? And quite a few of the bones found by Lance Kelly with time have appeared to be animal, and majority of the viewers have agreed as well until now, right? And that is why we're taking a look. Seems to be a shifting in direction of opinion. Whereas in the past, it might have been criticised. Oh, you found a bone. Oh, look at how you handled it. What did you actually do with it? Those criticisms. Even Candice Cooley calling out Lance anti-Corbyn at the time during the bag of bone situation, which when the police reported back to Lance, majority of the bones in that bag were animal, though there was one odd bone within that wasn't clarified or explained, which is a little bit odd. I mean, you can interpret it however you want, but there's that. Ever since though, from there till now, it's mainly been animal bones. But this one bone, I believe a vertebrae, however you say the actual name. We're going to take a look at photos of it from different angles. Take in mind the quality may not be the best, but I did source it out from the original video, not the shorts, in which I've got it from different angles, tried clearing it up, enhancing it, and a side-by-side comparison of other bones supposedly similar or as close as can be, right? So, if you do want to check out the footage of Lance Kelly's videos, should be able to provide a link down below in the description of this video, so make sure to check it out. Of course, throughout this video, whatever we talk about, you can share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions on the matter. We'll still keep in focus with Dylan Rounds. The purpose, once again, today is to make sense of the case, to tie up any loose ends, and to reinforce any points which may prove something, maybe to do with Dylan's whereabouts, Dylan's remains, such as this bone found, okay? As well, if you haven't already, make sure to check out my previous video. I will provide a link down below in the pinned comment section for you to check it out, as well as some additional links if you wish to view them, okay? So with that all being said, we don't need to check any comments of the last video as there weren't really any or many, no questions either, which I guess is a positive. It means maybe less people are confused, which is all good. We'll try and keep that clarity up and consistency. We'll start off with Weezer's comment and the information regarding Chase Venstra. Focus on that first, and then follow on with the bone found by Lance Kelly. Okay? Let's transition on over right now. Here we are with Weezer's comment. She says, Tacoma Road that you mapped out is the road Dylan would have travelled from Lucin. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your spelling before. Some people do spell it with an A, which is incorrect. The ranchers had Chase near Winecup Road, maybe about 1 mile south of it. I'm not sure exactly where Dylan came across him or what day. Tom was correct. Chase was stalking a rancher's wife. The brush in that area is known as grease wood. It has a lot of thorns. That doesn't sound too practical, that. The locations in Salty's videos where Chase stashed stuff is several different spots. The dead chickens and dead dogs are several miles apart. Chase shot the dogs. I'm not sure why. In your video, you show a ranch in Tacoma. It is actually just a residence with a couple of trailers. Also, you showed some other buildings and those are abandoned trailers. I think I got all of your questions answered, so I missed the premiere. Okay. Let me know if any of this clears it up for you in the chat. I still feel there are a couple of questions I need to respond back with, but we'll do it accordingly. We will go into the maps very shortly, but I just need to reanalyze this just to definitely be sure with it. So, Weezer is saying Tacoma Road that I mapped out is the road Dylan would have travelled from Lucin. Okay. I mean, the area I mapped out wasn't Tacoma Road. I mapped out Tacoma, Tacoma Road. Okay? That's what the, I guess, issue was. Okay? And I can re-explain it once we're back on the maps. So, Tacoma Road that you mapped out is the road Dylan would have travelled from Lucin. I didn't catch your spelling before. Some people do spell it with an A, which is incorrect. Yeah, but the thing is, there are two different roads. One's called Tacoma, the other one's called Tacoma, and it's actually labelled on the maps. That's what the issue is, unless Google Earth have made a mistake. But once again, I'll prove it in the Google Earth imagery in a second, right? A bit about ranchers had Chase near Winecup Road. Okay, yes, I do remember seeing Winecup Road on the maps. Winecup Road connected onto Tacoma Road. Okay, maybe I might need to use a specific map for that so it's all mapped out correctly. Also, it says maybe about 1 mile south of it. So rough estimation, 1 mile south of Winecup Road. I guess we can have a little look about there. Anything else? I'm not sure exactly where Dylan came across him or what day. Wait. Hold on. So, Weezer, well, what's going on here? It should be the 25th of May when Dylan came across Chase Venstra. in which Dylan saw Chase Venstra, I guess on the side of the road, gravel path or whatever you call it, and he looked bloodied, almost bruised, with no shoes, described by Candice Cooley, which supposedly turned out he had one shoe, the other one was missing. So, 25th of May 2022, this is when this all happened, okay? I don't know, it just seems a bit weird. Weezer has provided interesting information here, stuff I've never heard of before, but she wasn't sure of the date it happened, though it's constantly been referred to it all taking place on the 25th of May, and that date has never changed or been questioned. Hopefully that clears up Weezer's question, maybe? Right. The bit about not sure where Dylan exactly was when coming across Chase. So I guess if we had to do like a rough radius, we're in a certain mile radius. Okay. Would have been nice to nail it down, to be honest, though. Anything else here? 1 mile south of it. Tom was correct. Chase was stalking a rancher's wife. The brush in that area is known as greasewood. So if there's a lot of thorns in that brush, why was Chase within the brush? Now, with what Tom said previous, I believe Tom saying it, or even if it was Weezer, one or the other, that Chase went back to the area where they were, the rancher. He got his other groups of guys to come on down, roughed him up, I guess as like a warning. Surely that would have caused a bit of bleeding, right? If not, was it being in the thorns when Chase was hiding in them? And why would you hide in brush which has thorns? Won't it be painful and uncomfortable? It just seems a bit silly, to be honest. Now, the bit about Chase stalking the rancher's wife, that isn't a surprise, okay? Chase Venstra did it in the past with his wife, or known as ex-wife. Yes, it was the ex-wife of Chase Venstra in the past. There was some kind of protection order or something put in place to prevent Chase from getting anywhere near to her, and yet he broke it by stalking her, okay? So he's got a history of doing stuff like that, and he's done it once again. So, around the 25th, or on the 25th, it happening with the rancher's wife. What we're seeing are small patterns and crossovers with all these different characters in the case who are either directly associated or once associated in Dylan's disappearance. Though, away from the case, each individually have committed crimes, gone against things, broke rules, gotten in trouble, and then reoffended and repeated over time. Like with Brenner, being a felon in possession of firearms, that happening 3 to 4 times, multiple times. Shootings, hurting people with the use of firearms, that has happened a couple of times, such as the Maryland one in the 1980s. And then fast forward to, from the looks of it, Dylan's death, right? Then, as for Don Hately, he's done his own criminal stuff in the past. Has he reoffended or repeated? Not from what I know of. But what about Robert Aviles, known for burglary, stealing things? And also Chase Venstra has done it himself. And they've constantly re-offended along those lines. And even if it's not always the same exact crime, it's just simply committing a crime in the first place and repeating it despite being punished for it. They've not learned from their lessons. Maybe they can't control themselves, or maybe they just want to do that because it benefits them in some way. Then, all these characters who were around Dylan in some way, whether they knew him personally or just came face to face with Dylan. Dylan, frequently, I don't know if that's an overstatement, an exaggeration, but it seems somewhat often in a short span of time before Dylan's disappearance, Dylan was surrounded by a fair few reoffenders, criminals, which probably isn't the best of things, right? I mean, even if these criminals weren't known for directly attacking or hurting the type, age, demographic of someone like Dylan, that they were doing other unrelated crimes, it's still not a good idea to be around those type of people. Bad people can bring bad news to your door, right? If you get sucked into it somehow, somewhere, either you become a part of it, of the crime involved, or you become a victim to it in some way or another. And I guess that's what's happened with Dylan. Somehow crossing paths with Brenna, wrong place, wrong time, snap mentality, and leading to that outcome. But as for Chase Venstra, the main focus of this video, although there may be alibis here and there to excuse Chase, there is still questioning around him, right? What is the most common crime Chase Venstra commits, or the most common rule Chase breaks? He seems to be known and frequent for stealing things, and from the looks of it, stalking. Would Chase Venstra ever stalk Dylan Rounds? Probably not, due to gender, right? I don't know if it would have happened, but if Dylan was in a relationship with a female at some point, is there a chance Chase Venstra would have tried stalking, Dylan's partner? I don't know. Maybe not, but it's just worth highlighting because, if that was the type of situation to happen, it led to a confrontation afterwards, how would Chase respond? In a negative way, an aggressive way? Like what? In the case with this rancher, it seems as if Chase Venstra didn't put up a fight. He was roughed up. It was 4-5 against 1, let's just say. So he probably couldn't really do much. What we have heard in the past as well, Chase Venstra being unstable, possibly under the influence of drugs at times. What type? Fentanyl, maybe, or something else out there. Was it paraphernalia? I'm not quite sure. But, under substance use can make you act out, maybe schizophrenic, paranoid, lashing out, maybe physical or verbal. You take that into mind. Could that have played a role at any point in a crime committed by Chase Venstra, or him getting caught up in trouble with someone? I mean, what we've also got to acknowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chase Venstra did, get on with Becky at one point in an intimate way, Brenna's girlfriend. And Brenna wasn't happy with that. Correct me if I'm wrong, if it is wrong, but, you see Chase Venstra not giving up, right? If he wants something, he will get it. Could you say there is some kind of psychological correlation in which Chase Venstra perceives something he wants, like an item, a possession, an object, which leads hence to stealing things and burglary, but also it can apply to people as well, the stalking factor. He values them like he values objects he desperately needs and wants, and he will do what he can to get a hold of it, even if it means lurking about or befriending someone. Does Chase Venstra treat certain humans, maybe of a certain gender, as objects? I don't know, but let me know your thoughts down below. Although we are slightly going off target. I just wanted to acknowledge these additional points. Also, apologies if there was any noises in the background, just stupid, pathetic humans causing disruption. But it's okay, it's under control. So let me know, and you can even leave comments down below in the comments section. Is there anything here on screen provided by Weezer which creates clarity or causes more confusion? I'll be honest, I don't want to spend too long specifically on Chase Venstra, and I'll tell you why right now. I am starting to get those senses of reoccurring patterns of what other YouTubers have done over time, absorbing a lot of information, but it being either inconsistent or out of sync, delayed or spread out, and it's kind of a back and forth motion and a little bit messy. I do not want that to repeat here, so we will be limited in focus on Chase Venstra. Okay? There are additional events we can take in mind down the line, but for this particular one, I don't want to spend too long on it because I have made a couple of videos now, right? So this could be, one of the last few ones for now regarding this event. So we can go on the maps very shortly. We check out Wine Cup Road, 1 mile south of it, just to see what's within the area. Anything else? Where she said, in your video, you show a ranch in Tacoma. Yeah, by the side of Tacoma Road near the railroad tracks. Right, and I thought it was a farm or something. And it's just a residence with a couple of trailers. Okay. And Weezer says, also you showed some other buildings and those are abandoned trailers. Okay, so that's just slightly further up the road where I thought there were containers, but the trailers, okay? Is the thing, bird's eye view, when you're looking down at them, both like 3D, so they're both cast shadows, both similar in length and size. That's why you can get confused between trailers and storage cargo containers, right? You look at someone like Lance Kelly, who's constructed his place of living with the use of cargo containers and stuff like that, building it, constructing it, which is interesting. There's always that to take in mind. Anything else here before we do move on? It's just a bit where you go on about Tacoma Road. What I'll do, and I will repeat it once again, is when we are on the maps, I'm gonna say, is this the road or that the road you are on about? And Weezer, when you hear that, immediately make sure to say yes or no, but in the comment section, and provide a timestamp of the exact road I'm pointing to, which is the correct one. Okay? I know someone, Montello said about how Tacoma, it's all the same thing, tomato, that type of same. But it's not. It genuinely isn't, unless Google Earth has made a mistake. And I think it's time to go on to the maps now to explain what I mean. Here we are on Google Earth. I don't know if we need to go on any other maps, depending how it's labelled. Just make sure we are currently facing north. We're in Montello, Nevada on this side. You see the Utah border, dotted line, going all the way down, right? This dirt road is one we've often referred to and one I have regularly talked about throughout time, which goes into Montello, Nevada. This one here crosses the border. And following it back that way goes into Lucin, Utah. Covers a fair bit of distance. From the last map analysis we looked at, whether it be Bing or Scribble maps, this road is known as TEC, T-E-C Tacoma Road. Okay? Believe this is the one Weezer is referring to. Now, the point Weezer made saying the road I mapped out was the one Dylan came from, well, the road I mapped out was this one here. This dirt road, as you can see. This dirt road here comes off from Tacoma. Right here, that dirt road you see going all the way into Lucin and also goes all the way down there is called Tacoma. The one I mapped out was the dirt road coming off Tacoma, which you see here, right? And it runs all the way down here. The name of this road is not called Tacoma, it's called Tacoma, right? First of all, oh, here we go, we've already got it typed in. Tacoma, as you see here, there's the official marker for it, as we basically said beforehand. Now, if I type in Tacoma with an A, you'll notice the difference. There you go. It does exist. Where does it take me? Tacoma with an A. Yet another official marker. And this is the area and zone I mapped out under the original assumption Dylan Rounds was driving down this way from wherever and Chase was down this road by the side. Now, there is some vegetation near those overhead power lines, so there's that to take in mind. But for the rest of it, it's quite bare. Okay? So I just wanted to explain that to you, Weezer, right? Interpreting how you worded it, it's as if you've simply got a road called Tacoma, but some people accidentally spell it with an A and not an E. Yet on screen right now, we have two distinct different roads, which do connect to one another, but they've got two different names, two different spellings. So, is this road correct? Is this the road on screen where Dylan Rounds was driving down? Yes or no? Was Chase Venstra around this area? Yes or no? Around the time Dylan came across him. Okay? You see that? Tacoma. Tacoma, the main road which goes into Lucin, but also going the other way goes into Montello. Now, what about Wine Cup Road, the area where the ranchers and Chase were at, where I guess it went down? Where is that? Good question. I think it's further up this way. It's round this area, okay? But before we do look into that, just a second. Need to refer back to those previous buildings, what Weezer was commenting on, okay? Just give me a second to find them. So this place down here, which I described as a ranch or a farm, this is what Weezer was referring to as simply a residence where people live. And you can see the white RV trailer there, center of the screen. And I guess another one there, okay? The other place which I referred to slightly further on up, which is here, as you can see. I thought, were they cargo shipment containers for storing stuff? This is what Weezer referred to as abandoned trailers, where people once lived in, okay? So that clears that up. Okay, so just reevaluating things. Tacoma Road labelled around this area goes all the way up here, as you can see. Probably could flip the image to make it a little bit easier to understand. Wine Cup Road up that way. Turn off point here, and then this, I guess, is known as Wine Cup Road. Okay? And within the area, you'll have Wine Cup Gamble Ranch. Now, my little question towards Weezer, okay? So, talking about a rancher and his wife being stalked by Chase Venstra. Is this rancher working or owns Wine Cup Gamble Ranch? Is there any association or link there? Let me know. So this Wine Cup Road, we don't have street view, unfortunately. And Weezer said south, about 1 mile south of Wine Cup Road. Where do we begin on Wine Cup Road? If, let's just say, south. If I was to roughly, well, the marker unfortunately is lost, but if I just place it, let's say here, south, northeast, south, about 1 mile down here. We'll zoom out just for, well, if it's about 1 mile south where the ranchers and Chase were at, or where the ranchers took Chase, that's right in the middle of some fields and pivots. Right, so was Chase Venstra hiding in the pivots? Going through the farmland, trespassing that way? Though, because it's within the farming area owned by a farmer or farmers, it makes sense to why it's roughly in this area and why Chase was taken there. But what do we have nearby? We've got some designated zones there and parcels of land. We've got Warm Springs down here. Appears to be a building. Some objects nearby. Some trucks right there, or trailers. And from the looks of it, additional trailers with a car parked up. Obviously, it may vary and differ with newer updated satellite imagery, but that's not the main focus. We're just roughly looking at the area to understand where Chase was taken to and why that exact spot. Because it's a rough estimate by Weezer, it is kind of loose, right? It looks to be around this area within 1 mile south of Wine Cup Road, which is here. The only other issue with Wine Cup Road, it does cover a bit of distance. The way I was checking it, I don't know if it was the one that came all the way up here and down there, but basically, some roads can be longer than others, right? If you said about 5 miles down Wine Cup Road, you're basically going 5 miles down the road in a certain direction, right? If you say something like 1 mile south off the road, it's like how far down the road to then start walking south away from it. You get what I'm saying? Because of the length of the road. At what point do you exactly pick? Where's Wine Cup Gamble Ranch? Isn't it the one here? Gamble Spring. This must be it then. Wine Cup Gamble Ranch. There was talks about this place in the past. Try and type it in if I can. Oh, it's doing that again, isn't it? It's been a bit of a prick. Wine Cup Gamble. What was the significance with Gamble Ranch? I don't know. I don't know if Wine Cup Gamble Ranch has anything. Yeah, I'm in the correct area. Good. I don't know if this area is to do with the rancher's wife being stalked by Chase Venstra, or some of the ranchers that assisted that one rancher who needed help in teaching Chase Venstra a lesson or two. If anyone can clear it up, feel free to do so. But with this farming community teaming up with one another, it shows close ties as well as looking out for one another, which is understandable, I guess. Now, the external talk about Wine Cup Gamble Ranch was touched upon by Moonshine Sundragon, an individual from Germany. In the past, they were present and active in the case, and they did talk a lot about the Dylan Rouse case. They appeared as if they knew quite a bit as well, and also questioned other aspects and areas too. And the talk about Wine Cup Gamble Ranch at the time, provided by an explanation of Moonshine Sundragon, is it was an area in which the owners, people around, weren't allowing police to search on the land because of it being some kind of conservation area. They didn't want it harmed, disturbed. Because if you got police and maybe equipment coming on in, ATVs, excavation things, diggers, tracks, backhoes, whatever, it's going to disturb the land. It might cause harm to the wildlife in some way or another, hence why it's a conservation site. So denied access. Now, why did the police want to go down to Wine Cup Gamble Ranch? Why that far away from Dylan's place of living? Not Dylan's place of living, Dylan's farm, or the grain shed property in which Brenner was nearby to it. Why go away from that to Wine Cup Gamble Ranch? Is it because the police in the early days were following the leads from Chase Venstra and the situation with him and associating it with Wine Cup Gamble Ranch? I don't know. But let me know your thoughts, okay? I think there was some additional talk by Moonshine Sundragon saying this area, the people that own the ranch or nearby, in connection with higher-ups or something, and they've got some kind of elite hunting group, a country club or something, in which the powerful people... Now, if you got these powerful people, are they corrupt? I don't know. But if you do have powerful people, I guess they can make other people disappear who are below them. If you got powerful people and they see someone, opposition, as a threat, then they may act upon it. Could that somehow tie in with the theories, the ideas that Dylan as a farmer posed a threat towards other farmers and ranchers in the distance and nearby? I'm not quite sure. You look at Dylan's farm, still, I guess, in early days of development, people saying that his crops failed, that he wasn't that successful in the end. I mean, some people giving some kind of realities of Dylan was reckless with his farming and how he handled the equipment. Brenner, who was in the area, said the same thing, interestingly, how he handled and disrespected the equipment. Bit reckless. Well, if that truly was the case, then that would dispel any ideas or feelings of competition, right? If Dylan's just seen and portrayed as a reckless farmer or someone who is still an amateur, early developments of the farm itself, then the more established, longer standing established farms and ranches don't need to worry about a thing, right? So there is conflicting points there. Just wanted to provide a little backstory behind Wine Cup Gamble Ranch and to start any possible other discussions which may link in with any of this, which occurred on the 25th of May 2022. Okay? So I think if we had to do just a very brief summary, 25th of May 2022, Dylan Rounds comes across Chase Venstra near or around, roughly speaking, Tacoma Road with an E. Notices Chase has blood upon him, bloodied, missing shoes, or at least missing a shoe. How did that all come about? Well, from the backstory of what we've heard of, Chase stalking a rancher's wife. How close or physical did it get? Not quite sure, but there was a level of stalking. Rancher's husband, I guess, warned him off. He went back for more, Chase Venstra. And that's when the rancher got some of his boys in or backup, took him roughly 1 mile south of Winecup Road and roughed him up. Then wanted to call the police, contact Box Elder, I believe, and they said just to let him loose. So he fled the area, Chase Venstra, getting to Tacoma Road, Tacoma, and then coming across Dylan. It wasn't planned, it just happened. And then that was basically it. Sure, it would have been interesting if Candice Cooley has any additional information around that. Like, the way Dylan told Candice Cooley at the time about Chase Venstra, Dylan did not mention the exact name. Dylan referred to Chase Venstra as some crazy guy he picked up. Right? But the bit about picking him up, being honest, that wasn't mentioned either. It was literally Dylan saying, I came across a crazy guy when I was driving down here. That's all Candice Cooley heard of at the time. Candice Cooley did ask Dylan, did you pick him up? Dylan said no, in which Dylan lied. And if you think about it, Dylan keeping that secret at the time, backing it up with Justin Rounds a couple of weeks ago in that Facebook post, saying that Dylan was good at hiding things and the brother Colton was good at keeping those secrets. So if Dylan is known for hiding things, and it's also replicated and demonstrated around the 25th of May when Dylan did tell mother, Candice Cooley, about that event, but not the exact details, and lied about saying he didn't pick him up when he did, then what else is Dylan Rounds possibly lying about, or has not been fully truthful on a matter, right? What if at any point down the line Dylan was threatened or did see something bad or was caught up in a weird or crazy event or came across another crazy guy at some point? Maybe immediately didn't lead to anything, but he didn't tell anyone. He didn't tell the exact truth. Now, one thing to acknowledge, okay? How did Candice Cooley know about Chase Venstra, the actual name, who he was, and that Dylan did pick him up and take him to Montello? I believe it's when Candice Cooley was within the area or nearby and had a conversation with Kurt Wadsworth and Brenner, and that's when they spoke about it in like a circle talk. Now, how would Brenner know about it? How would Kurt Wadsworth know about that event? Where did they get it from? Well, my guess would be, to an extent, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if this all happened on the 25th, this whole situation with Chase Venstra, the 26th of May, simply one day later, that's when Dylan actually went to Montello, right? That's where the final transaction was made. Either that or on the 27th. Tied in with possibly meeting up with Kurt Wadsworth, right? You know, it's still back and forth about 26th, 27th. Some say he was there for 2 days. Other people say he was only there for 1 day. That still has not been 100% reinforced, which is annoying. I'm basing it off he was there for 2 days. Whether it be 1 or 2, I'm sure Dylan was around Kurt, and Dylan told Kurt about what happened the day before, right? So if we go back down to Montello, down here, 26th of May, Cowboy Bar Grill, but also maybe visiting in on Kurt Wadsworth, right, within the area. And Dylan, I feel, and we can do a poll right now, first of all. Do you think Dylan Rounds, who may have lied at times, as we've evidently heard with the 25th of May, with what Candice Cooley heard of at that time to what she actually heard down the line, that just roughly being an example, do you think that Dylan was more truthful, honest, opened up about things, events, feelings, thoughts to Kurt Wadsworth more than to his own family? Do you agree with that? Yes, Dylan was more open and honest with Kurt Wadsworth. No, Dylan was more open and honest towards his own family. There can be a third option. The third option can be, no, he kept it all a secret to himself. The fourth option can be, he was honest and open, but to another individual out there. And then you can list them down below, the names or the name of that person you believe. Okay? But I just think, to an extent, Dylan coming down here 26th, little crazy event going on. Maybe Dylan was excited by it or intrigued, right? I don't know how Dylan reacts to danger. I don't think anyone else knows either. Does Dylan have a fight or flight mechanism in his mind? Does he stand his ground? Is he a bit nervous? From what Brenner said when talking to Justin Rounds, I guess on the 30th of May, when the family went down to the place of Lucin, Brenner was bringing it up about how Dylan was useless with a gun and didn't know how to use it, and he couldn't fight his way out of a cardboard box or something. Okay. Does that provide a bit of perspective? I mean, in the early days, people were thinking that Dylan had a final stand, that Dylan was fighting off Brenner. But maybe it was the complete opposite. Dylan could be a hard worker and somewhat healthy as a farmer and doing all that work. But maybe when it comes to actual physical one-on-one or more than that, maybe Dylan isn't as cut out, which, you know, can be debatable. But if Dylan doesn't cause trouble, right, and he's a good individual, then you might not be as battle-hardened or as wary or as ready for that type of stuff, right? If you've not had previous run-ins. Look at someone like Brenner, always looking for a fight or some sort like that. You know, they've been through more, whether they've started it, caused it, or been on the receiving end. Whereas Dylan, doing his own thing, focusing, more of a surprise to him, I guess. Then, with Candice Cooley saying, giving examples of Dylan would be a little bit excited or kind of hot on the spot to respond quickly to someone to tell them that, oh, the rain is coming on in, or there's a storm, or he's just managed to finish his farm work, or he's managed to successfully park one of his vehicles in the grain shed in the past. He would make that known and almost make it seem like it's a big event. So if Dylan reacts to small things in a big way, then how does Dylan Rounds react to bigger things? Does he really exaggerate then? Does he really get excited? I don't know. Coming across a guy bloodied down Tacoma Road is a bit random, right? A little bit wary, a little bit odd, unexpected. How did Dylan describe it to Kurt Wadsworth? If he did at all. That's what I'd like to know. But then how would Brenner know about Chase Venstra and that event on the 25th then? Unless Brenner didn't know either and it was just Kurt who was present with Brenner and Candice Cooley at the time. But it must have been weird though. Candice Cooley and Justin at any point though being around Brenner at that time, considering what Brenner supposedly has done, and yet it being somewhat normal behaviour. It was a little bit weird that though. Maybe the only other possibility could be after the 26th, going into the 27th of May, the day later, Dylan going back to his farm. Maybe Kurt did contact Brenner about it, possibly. I mean, from what Ty Corbyn has said previously, and I think he still sticks by it, is that he feels Saturday morning, 28th of May, Kurt Wadsworth made a call to Brenner, or Brenner made a call to Kurt. And I wonder what happened in that supposed conversation. Did Kurt tell Brenner about that run-in with Chase Venstra? But even if it did, how would that then link on to Brenner getting Dylan for it? Because if Chase Venstra is disliked, or maybe even more so, hated by Kurt Wadsworth and a few others, and maybe Brenner doesn't like Chase Venstra too, considering the situation with Becky in the past, then really it should be Chase Venstra that gets taken out. I mean, this is one thing what we've got to break down and understand. You've got Dylan Rounds, who is an innocent individual for most part of it, at least. He's been there for a couple of years or so, right? And then you got Chase Venstra, Robert Aviles, those lot, who have criminal backgrounds, criminal history, constantly reoffending, pissing the Montello locals off, being hated by some, like Kurt Wadsworth and a few others that don't like them. And yet Chase Venstra and Robert Aviles, from the looks of it at least, have not been killed or like attempted murder or attempted kidnapping. Despite them being more hated than Dylan Rounds. So how does an innocent younger individual who hasn't caused any trouble, hasn't really pissed anyone off, supposedly doesn't really have any enemies, gets taken out, but someone like Robert Aviles or Chase Venstra that have done bad things are still, well, up to a certain point at least, before getting arrested for unrelated crime, we're still able to just move about and do whatever they like, and there is not as many consequences. You know, it's almost like there's a big contrast in tolerance levels, right? I know people will refer back to the obvious that Brenner loses control and snaps. What I would like to know, though, is why did Brenner snap and take it out on Dylan? And literally take him out. Yet Brenner, in the past, with other people he's come across, such as Chase Venstra, and maybe some others in between, who may have done something to piss Brenner off, Brenner snapped, yet Brenner didn't kill anyone back then. So why only now, or at least in 2022, did Brenner decide to kill someone for the first time ever? Why now? You know? Just a few little questions like that. I know it's kind of drifting away from Chase Venstra, but it's just trying to understand the backstories. And I know some people will say, well, when it comes to snapping, you don't think. A different outcome every time, randomised. Some more fatal than others. But you'd think the more times you snap, the more often, the higher the chance that eventually someone will be fatally hurt, right? Yeah, it's kind of been up and down, right? 1980s Maryland shooting, shot in the leg. In the leg. That must have been done with intent, right, to aim in that area. If it was in the arm, maybe Brenner was trying to aim for the chest area, the heart. But because the person was moving about, it was a grazing wound. But if you're shooting down at the leg, you're literally pointing the gun down. So from the looks of it, from at least what we know of at this moment, why did Brenner directly aim for Dylan to intentionally take him out? Just little points like that. Because in between, from 1980s Maryland incident up to 2022, quite a few years in between of Brenner possibly snapping here and there and getting angry. And not once did he kill anyone in between that, all through those years, right? There's quite a big gap, right? That is why we looked at those potential explanations, potential side motives, building long-lasting jealousy with Dylan's farming, what he has and how he handles it and treats it. and maybe to do with the age, the status, power dynamics, feeling somewhat threatened by Dylan's presence, etc. Now, I saw a comment recently, I believe, saying that Brenner was probably put out there by either Kurt Wadsworth or Ed Harshberger as a caretaker, but also to look out for Chase Venstra. My question would be, if Chase Venstra's homestead is in Montello, why would Brenner need to be put in Lucin? If you're going to be on the lookout for Chase Venstra, wouldn't it make more sense to be in the Montello area where Chase Venstra was living at some point, up to a certain point, right? Yeah. That's why it doesn't make sense there. With Brenner moving into Lucin, who was already there? Don Hately, Ivor Zadowski, and then the odd other people who have farms in the area. I can't remember the exact order, I'll be honest with you. I think, was Dylan Rounds already dead? No, I think no. It was worded by Candice Cooley that Brenner got there before Dylan did. Yeah, because that's what we were putting the point across, that if Dylan witnessed Brenner in the past, a couple of years ago, that's how Justin worded it. Dylan witnessing Brenner threatening to kill, to shoot Dylan's own father, Justin. And for Dylan to shrug that off as, he's just being an arse. You know, wow. And for like the parents, I don't know if Candice Cooley knew of it at the time or not, or if it was kept a secret. So then find out that Dylan is moving into Lucin, in which Brenner is stationed at. And yet Justin, the father, is aware that Brenner threatened him himself. That Justin knows that Dylan is now within the area closer with Brenner, more frequent. Is that a good combination? Probably not. Yeah, it happened. A little bit problematic, right? So I think we will leave that part there. I'll tell you one thing, the flow of the story gets a little bit easier with time to try and understand. Maybe it's just because of going over it over and over again. Do you feel that there were questions there that could be answered, and some aimed at Weezer? And once again, Weezer, as I said earlier on in this video, certain moments where provide a timestamp to say whether I'm right or wrong with the tech coma and the tack coma. Because as you clearly saw, official markers, right? Two different roads which do connect with one another. So let's put all that aside and now move on to the most important part of this video. The bone, the blood-stained vertebrae found by Lance Kelly. Right, so on screen you can see the bone which has been found by Lance Kelly. I want to point out quickly, there is a longer video of this. This is just a screenshot for now because, to avoid all those additional issues. I know people may come on in. I probably didn't acknowledge earlier on in this video. It may have already happened, if not happening right now in the chat. Just as a heads up, there is fairly high chance there could be resistance tonight in the live chat or afterwards. Some people may come on in, complain, whinge, whine, bitch, moan, accuse of this, accuse of that, etc. and repeat, right? From certain audiences. There's definitely a high chance considering what we're talking about tonight, okay? Just wanted to say that so you're aware if there is chaos, but then again, you might already be, facing that right now with whatever's going on in the chat. But, it needs to be covered, this. It is unique for a change because this is the first time me doing some kind of bone analysis, right? What I do want to acknowledge Am I an expert when it comes to bones? Nope. But I have seen bones over time, such as within the Kenny Veach case when people have been out there exploring. When it came to that case, more so the horns from the bighorn sheep, that type of stuff, and the skulls as well, which obviously weren't human and visually didn't look human at all, right? A few other bits and bobs of bones scattered about, but it was to be expected. Though not once did it come to the conclusion that any of Veach's bones were found there, right? With Dylan Rounds, seems like a similar situation in coming across all these different bones. Some are found in caves, some are found just out in the open, some are near to rocks, right? So it's just understanding what is what and what it is slightly, okay? The other thing to acknowledge is whilst Lance Kelly is fiddling about with this bone, he does not actually touch it with his hands. He's using a stick to prod it, which, you know, I know Candice Cooley would probably be saying, hey, why are you disturbing it? You should not be touching it whatsoever. But technically, Lance isn't. He's using an object to move it about, so he doesn't contaminate it with his own prints, which is good, I guess. But what I want to know is, and I'm not sure if it was already mentioned, it wasn't in this short clip, though. What happened with the bone? Was it bagged, tagged, taken away, reported to the police, or ignored? Because this is the other issue. If you got someone like Lance Kelly constantly reporting findings to the police, although that's a good thing, yes, is there a chance that the police, with time, might become disinterested and think, yeah, it's just an animal bone, yeah, nothing to see here, yeah, that's got no linkage to a human, let alone Dylan Rounds? Could it get to that point where the police just, think, oh, he's time wasting, yeah, we're not going to listen anymore? It's a bit of a unfortunate situation now, because you might eventually step across something genuine and actually relating to Dylan or maybe another missing person, but people may not believe you because of all the past stuff that's gone on. That's one of the worst situations to be in. How do you change it around? I really don't know. But let's just focus on one thing at a time. So we see a bone on screen. Nearby, there was another one, which Lance Kelly pointed out. The one on screen, though, Lance described as fairly fresh. The other bone, though, Lance described as not as fresh, older. Now, if you've got different dates of bone, one's older than the other, then likely it doesn't belong to the same thing, I guess. If one's fresh, then a animal or human has been recently hunted and eaten, ripped apart, etc. Bones have been scattered. Though if there was another bone and it's older from in the past, well, it's in the past of another person or human. So there's no linkage there. Though, different bones can all be gathered in one spot if it's like a den or an area where an animal sleeps, where an animal eats, right? It builds up over time a collection of different bones, similar to James Brenner, also known as Jim Brenner, who built up a wide collection of cans, beer cans, near to the dirt mound, but also within the grain shed property, because Brenner did drink a fair bit, right? And then he would dump the cans nearby, and that would build up with time. Did those cans all come from the same place all at once? No, it was over time. Right? They were all gathered in that one spot. So that can apply to collections of bones in one area. Don't mean to say that they all link. Okay? So there's that. Also, if a person did come across Dylan Rounds' remains or a piece of Dylan's remains, the bones, in your own opinion, list it down below in the chat. Would you be expecting those remains to be fresh? The bones. Would the bones be fresh over 9 months later? Yes or no? I suppose we can do a poll right now. I'll try and word the poll as, after 9+ months of Dylan missing, would his remains still be fresh? Yes or no? If it's no, then with Lance pointing out these bones, saying they're fresh, that they're blood-stained and, oh, it's all new, then it can't link to Dylan Rounds then, right? That's how you'd tie that in and understand it. Anything else to acknowledge before we continue? Not from what I can think about at the moment. I mean, a blood-stained bone. Is it blood-stained because it's fresh? Because it was ripped off from the rest of the body? It's been handled in the mouth of an animal, which may have had blood on the teeth or around the mouth. Maybe. But though, if it's blood-stained, right, when you think about it, most bones, and at least all the bones I've seen throughout videos over time, more so in other cases, they've never been blood-stained. So I'd assume blood-stained means it's more fresh, right? Because blood stains can fade away and wear away with time. Okay, you might get a blood-stained ground, blood-stained floor, but that can wear away, providing it's exposed to the environment and the elements like the rain. If it's inside of a building, those stains can remain for quite some time, right? Like an abandoned asylum, hospital, etc. But we're talking about outside here, as you see it as it's in the open, right? If you have just joined right now, before we continue anymore, welcome if you're here. Welcome to all the people watching right now in the background and those lurking in the darkness. If for whatever reason you want to catch up, feel free to rewind to the beginning of this video where we talk heavily and deeply about Chase Venstra, a part of Kurt Wadsworth 2, Winecup Gamble Ranchers, and all of that. What we are going to do right now is go into the comment section to see what the responses are, what other people think about this bone on screen, and then I will follow it up with my own opinion and bone comparison. Okay? Here we go. 32 comments. Let's just arrange it in the newest. It'll be interesting to see if there's any people here that leave comments, of those that have watched my videos as well. As like a little shout out. You got Leanne Soppy, okay, saying human for sure. Now, Leanne has appeared on my channel here and there with time, okay? As well, whilst we do read through these comments, we can see what the majority think as well. What I would say is, at least all the other videos in the past, the majority of people have written off and said, oh, it's just animal. Yeah, it's not likely a human. There still would have been comments by people here and there saying it's human, but the majority weren't as in consensus. So let's see if there's a difference here this time round. Paper Songs, I saw a picture with assorted goat vertebrae and one looks similar to that. Do they get goats there? There's rams and domestic goats, but I don't know about mountain goats. Paper Songs, are you going to get it analysed to check? Good question. Not replied yet. Now, this is the thing. If the bones are left where they are, it's kind of good that they've not really been disturbed. But, you know, if you leave them behind, it's like you got to try and go back to that area and relocate it. Is it wise? Is it practical? Anyway, let's continue reading. Anna, it definitely looks human. Hope you put it in a bag to get it analysed. Dana says, judging by your hand in the shot, that's too big to be human. Cow, maybe. Too big to be human. I wouldn't say it's that big, to be honest. Not at all. Not at all. No. I mean, you got to take in mind that this is a short video. It wasn't filmed vertical, but it was edited vertical. So everything's zoomed on in. So it may appear bigger than it actually is. You look at the original video, higher video quality as well. You got to take in mind, short videos, the resolution is almost downgraded. So if you've got a 720p standard landscape video on YouTube, you edit it, change the aspect ratio so it becomes vertical, and it's under 59 seconds long, so then it can turn into a short. The video resolution, due to aspect ratio changing, goes from 720p to about 420p. Same applies to 1080, dropping down to 720. There might be ways around it by other people, but that's from my experience as well, okay? Quality appears worse when you change the format of the video, the aspect ratio. I mean, as for talking about a cow, it belonging to a cow, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, when we were looking at the bra shed and Lance Kelly was searching about there, and nearby was the remains of a cow, and you saw those big bones, right? Pure white big bones, much bigger than the bone like found here. Obviously, different bones part of the body, right? Bones will differ in size. Not every bone is the same size within a human or animal. It varies, but you know, you see some bones and you can definitely get that sense that it does not belong to a human. Very unlikely. But the one I see on screen, there is a chance it could. Not saying that it is, but it could be. Let's just continue with the rest of the comments and see. Lana says, sheep. Denise definitely looks human. Wist says sheep. Mumma down under. Underpants down under. I rule out deer, but possibly sheep due to its little side bit. But gosh, it looks like the human one too. We'll get more into that about the bits sticking out on the sides because there's some comparisons to be made there. Allegedly, Annie says human. Matt says deer. Geneva says sheep or deer. Debbie looks human to me. It is more round than the others and has a smaller spike on the side than the others. Good point, Debbie. I acknowledge that. Patty, I think, whatever that means. Dana says, looks to me like a sheep but could possibly be human. American Pie, top left corner, human. Carol, oh my God, it appears to be human. Penny says human. Tony, definitely needs to be analysed. Definitely looks like human vertebrae, especially looking at the picture provided. Rennie says, I'm leaning towards sheep or deer. It don't look human to me. The diagram of the human looks to be more oval shaped and looks like it has more cartilage or bone marrow than the animals do. Now, quick question. Do human bones differ from one another humans? Are some people's bones bigger than others? I guess so, based off height, size and all that, and build. There are some people out there who are thick-boned or something. They appear maybe almost looking more muscular. They're just bigger and bulkier. That's partially because of the muscle. No, partially, aside from that, the bone itself. Good example on the spot would be Denis Saplankov, arm wrestler who's returned back in recent time. He appears to be like a bodybuilder, but that aside, he is big boned. His structure, his body, even his hands as well are quite big and thick too. So, you think about it, if you came across a tall or a big-sized human, because that does exist out there, and you found the remains of them, which would appear bigger, arguably, compared to a standard or smaller-sized human, such as Indiana, you'd probably be thinking, oh, is it human or not? I'm not quite sure. Makes you think. I mean, kind of drifting off, but like there's supposed discoveries of giants from the past, big skeletal remains which could link to a human who was bigger than the usual human of today. So you might get the odd few exceptions here and there. But anyway, let's continue reading. Teresa says human. Linda says looks human. Gina, I think it's human bone, looks to me. David appears to be human with no cadaver dog. Might have to remove, if possible, some of the cave in. Just Jen. Also, where you found this, there was a cave or mine caved in. Dylan's spirit box reading, he said he's buried in a sense that Jim caved in the opening. That's why you need a cadaver dog to dig. Just Jen, human, like I thought. David, dude, it almost looks human. Cougar, need to see a measurement, although it does lean towards human. Indy looks human. Peggy, human. So, to an extent, the majority are in consensus that it's a human bone. If that really is the case, is it Dylan's bone or a bone of Dylan? It's not been confirmed, of course. It's like a two-part verification thing. Number one, does it meet the criteria of it being a human or an animal? If it's a human, then the second criteria is, who does it belong to? Now, is this bone finding more significant than all the other bones found in the past? Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Is this bone, what you see on screen, more important than all the other bits and bobs of bones Lance Kelly has found in the past, ranging from ones in mine shafts to ones found in narrow, deep, dark caves? Okay? With it being out in the open, you could be wondering, well, what about the rest of the bones? Where would Dylan be? Right? Well, if Dylan's been scattered about, that explains why the bones have ended up here and the rest could be elsewhere. But if there is evidence to support desecration, whether that be burying Dylan and then removing him to bury him once again, or just simply concealing Dylan once and one time only, then Dylan must have been dug up by something or someone for a supposed bone like this, which could be human, which a very small chance could be Dylan. Must have been an animal then. But how? Like, if Dylan is buried in the ground, let's say fairly deep, are animals going to be digging Dylan up to then get his bones? I don't think so. If Dylan was just dumped on the ground in the middle of the open, then sure, animals may scavenge and take the bones away with time and scatter them. But you'd think if you're buried in the ground somewhere or buried in a wash, then most, if not all, your remains and bones will remain in that one spot and not go anywhere else. Do you get what I'm saying? Let me know your thoughts, okay? So, with the majority of opinions here, what we saw in the comment section, people saying it's a human bone. We can move on to my opinion in a second. All I will say is, if it's not Dylan, who else could it be? As for bones, Susan Powell, somebody else? List down below who you think it could be. If there is time, I'll do a poll as well, the obvious one. Is this bone human looking to you or of an animal of some sort? Okay? So now we've just got a couple of vertebrae bones to, I guess, compare, contrast with one another. I guess when you get vertebrae bones, they might differ in shape depending how far down they are near the spinal area. As I said, I'm not an expert when it comes to this stuff. If I do tap once, for some reason, the background becomes black, but I believe it's because this is a transparent image from Google, which is a bit dodgy. That's why we've got to tap it like that. And this is supposedly of a human vertebrae. Okay? That's how it came up online, right? And it is labelled right in the centre of it, where the hole is, if you want to call it that, or the H symbol, because it looks like a H, is the spinal cord. And then on the outer part of it, you've got the vertebral foramen. Then, at the base area, where there's a bit more surface area, you got the body. Above it, you got the pedicle. Then on top of that, you got the lamina, and that falls under the vertebral arch. Okay. On the other side, where it's pointing to that like little knobbly thing, is the facet 4, and above it, that bigger circle, the facet of superior articular process. And then on the right hand side at the top, I think it says posterior spinous process and transverse process. Okay. So, I mean, like, I don't know what it actually looks like on the spot as a comparison. I was going to say, does it look like a giraffe? Probably not. But it's vertebrae, okay? You got 2 knobbly things coming off at the sides and then 1 knobbly point sticking up, right? And then the base is where there's more surface area, and that's a human one. Then we move on to this. I believe this is either a deer or a bighorn sheep vertebrae. Take in mind, when looking on Google, it was very difficult to actually find photos of the vertebrae of these different animals. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. Maybe it's down to copyright as well. You can't seem to find them that accessible. A bit annoying. I'm just working with the material I have, okay? So, human vertebrae, supposedly, and this is an animal one. And you do notice a fair difference, right? I believe this one, is it upside down or is it facing the correct way? I believe that could be facing the correct way. That one looks like it's rotated around. Do they look different? Yes. This animal one does have the hooks that come at the sides as it curls round. You see those where it curls in with one another. And then you got this knobbly thing that comes down. With the human one, they do stick out on the left and right, but they're at a slight angle and they're thicker, but not as long. And that knobbly bit in the middle does look kind of similar to that, though this one is longer. I guess that's what we've got to be mainly focusing on, these bits here that stick out on the sides that are different to the human. Now, got a collection here of vertebrae to do with a bighorn sheep, I believe, or a deer. Sometimes they're not always labelled properly. But what you do clearly see, once again, almost like wings of a plane, they do come out quite a bit on the sides, as you see. So yeah. And referencing back to the bone we saw of in Lance Kelly's video, they didn't look like these, not really. Anyway, move on to the next one. So, as a reference point and explanation, hopefully, I hope it does show up on screen somewhat clear. I did try to enhance the images. Take in mind it is a bit blurry, but there's not much I can do about it, end of the day. So, you've got, what do you call it, a diagram of these different bones, the vertebrae. You got human, you got deer, and sheep. Now, the deer one, middle of the screen, that one there, on the left-hand side, does look similar to maybe that one there. Does look similar, yeah. That one could look like a sheep, yeah. I mean, it's the thing, it depends which way the vertebrae is facing. Is it facing downwards or upwards? Has it been rotated or not? Right? All we have to simply do, and you can do it yourself, is whilst looking at the bones on screen, the vertebrae of a human, deer, or sheep, do any of them on screen match up with the ones on the far right-hand side of the screen? The ones on the far right-hand side of the screen where you see the photo of Lance Kelly, and then those 3 additional photos around him, thereof the vertebrae he found, okay? And I tried getting a screenshot of different angles of when he was moving it about. Take in mind, video quality was limited, so that's going to vary. And as well, because I was using footage, well, a screenshot from the original video, with it being so zoomed out, I had to crop the image down so it was more zoomed in, so it would fit on the screen. But as a result of doing it, the resolution is negatively impacted, but there was no other way around it. So if we can try and zoom on in, if possible. The vertebrae found here on the right hand side of the screen, that's the way it was laying down at the time of when Lance came across it. I mean, you could say it looks a bit like a donut, kind of circular, but you do get those points that stick out, okay? Take in mind, I'm not using the correct biological terms and all of that, because as I said, I'm not an expert when it comes to this stuff. Got the hole in the middle, is that, I guess, where the spinal cord is, I assume. And it's white. It's more white on that side, though when turning it over, it differed. As well, was there any fractures or cracks within these bones? Let me know if you noticed it. So you got that there. And then same image, but from a different angle. What instantly stands out to me is the base of it. The base of it, which is there. That bit there, which stands out more there. That base bit is similar to that bit there, which is known as the body. Okay? Few similarities there. Though the bit in the middle where it says spinal cord, when looking at this, you don't really see the hole. Though, when looking at it from that angle, there is the hole. So I guess that is the spinal cord area. Let's focus more so on this one. Here, towards the top of it, you've got the two things that curl in on one another, and then the middle point, the knobbly bit, which sticks up. Does that look similar to anything on screen what we have here? Yes. It looks like the sheep one. There's little hooks, like almost like claws, that come in on themselves, and then the middle section, the middle piece, which sticks upwards, that does look similar to that, how it curls in with one another, and then right in the center you got the point. Is there a difference though regarding one thing? Most definitely. With the sheep one, the 2 points lower down, which come out like wings of a plane, as you see on the left and right hand side, the length of them, which do look similar to like what we see here. That piece there looks similar to that piece there. Doesn't appear to be on the bone Lance found. Nothing sticks out on the sides. And as you see here, nothing there. Though, what I would suggest is, as you can partially see on the bone, right there on the side of it, there's a bit that sticks out, though it's not long enough. I feel that there might be a chance that bone snapped, or a part of it snapped in the past. Do we have a word for it? So that knobbly thing is called the transverse process. The transverse process. I don't know if that name only applies to a human vertebrae or animal ones too. I'm not too sure personally. But That is what I'm talking about regarding the wing type thing on the side of the vertebrae, which appears to be present on the diagram of the sheep one, but doesn't appear to be present on the one Lance found, though it looks as if a part of it was there, the rest of it snapped off. You know, if animals are handling the bones and they may bite down on them maybe for the bone marrow or anything else playing about with, the more delicate parts of the bone could break away, right? It does happen because, sure, you get these bones, you get the femur bone, pretty strong, right, and pretty important and big, and then some other bones as well. Though the smaller bones within a body, whether it be human or animal, are a bit more weaker and can break easier, right? Now, do we have any other examples on screen which could apply to the one Lance found? Well, my opinion up to now, it appears to be related to a sheep vertebrae, which is missing its, what's it called? Appears to be missing its transverse process from the looks of it. But that could have broken off. As for human vertebrae, you've got the hole in the middle, just like how you do with all the others. The base of it, the body, is quite thick, a fair size. What shape would you call it, though? It's kind of circular, but not quite. Yeah. Now, I guess one thing to point out, with the human vertebrae, whether it's the transverse process or the bit above it, it doesn't seem to curl in on itself quite the same way. Same applies to the deer one. It doesn't whatsoever. But that one does. Almost like nippers of a crab, how it curls in. And it's only the sheep one which does have those like hook type bone. Definitely looks like a sheep to me. I mean, this is the thing. You find a bone which might have been altered with slightly or damaged, it could appear as something else of another thing, a being. But what about the hole itself? Kind of oval shaped in a way. The base of it, to be honest, it looks like the shape of a strawberry in a way. The body of it seems to come down to a point. In a way, it's almost like a shape of a heart. Seems more like a shape of a heart. Heart-shaped body. Do we have a heart-shaped body here? We do. How it dips down and then comes to a point at the bottom. So you got like a heart-shaped body. Do you have a heart-shaped body here? I guess you do. It's kind of like heart-shaped, but more so it looks more like a shield, an actual shield. What about the human one? Nah, that's more like a squashed orange or a plum. The shape of that. It's much wider. And it doesn't come down to a point. More rounded. Whereas this vertebrate bone comes to a tip, a point at the bottom. As you can see down there. So what I would say, without having to drag it out too much, to be honest, obviously when you do these comparison of bones, it can be difficult, of course. Maybe the colouring of the bone, the condition it was left in, the angle of the bone when you take the photo, right? And then trying to compare it with an animal bone photo, but one's the other way than the other. I guess you can rotate them yourself if you think of it. It's just that hook, like claw thing, does look similar to that, just like how that is as well. The only thing that, and as well the heart-shaped body, the shaping of it coming to the point, is just like the one Lance found. The only thing that's different, which Lance's photo is different from just about all of them, is that the side bits are missing, but they could have snapped off. Okay? So, personally, I think it's of a sheep vertebrae. So of course you can leave your thoughts down below, give your explanations in the comment section, along with any questions you may have regarding Chase Venstra or the bone situation. Let me know what you think. I don't think there is time for a poll, but you can leave a comment down below and just say, is it a human bone or an animal bone? If it's animal, whose do you think it belongs to? I would say, based on the characteristics that are displayed on those diagrams and those additional photos, it looks to be of a sheep vertebrae, okay? Not a human. And yeah, not really much more I can say. I do feel there will be resistance on this video, even afterwards, whether it be because people are complaining about the title, even though it's a discussion-based video, end of the day. Important critical talking points, right? It's a unique angle and aspect on the case, considering I've never really analysed bones in the Don Brown's case, especially. So there's always a time and place for it, which there is now. Does this turn into a regular occurrence where we're constantly looking over bones? Probably not. You know, if you can do a couple of videos here and there of specific bones, and then you compare them to future bones, maybe it becomes a bit more efficient. But of course, with all the different bones in the body of a human or an animal, there's a lot of bones, right? So you're not going to keep coming across the same ones of the same area. You know, you might come across a vertebrae one day, then you come across a femur bone, then you come across a bone in the arm or something, right? And I don't know. I don't know if it is difficult to compare bones together of certain areas of the body. Sometimes the dead giveaway would be the size of the bone, but depends the size of the animal in comparison to a human. If you got a human and a cow, there's going to be an obvious difference. But if you got a human and a smaller sized animal, right, than a cow, then it might take just a little bit more time to analyse. The question is, at what point does this all stop? Because really, being realistic, you're going to be forever coming across bone remains. I understand it's important to, I guess, document every single one, just in case you do just so happen to stumble upon a human bone. But how do you keep track of all of these bones? Do you report every single one into the police, or would that be considered wasting police time? Or do you just have to keep a mental note and memory of all these locations? Because surely if you leave them out there and they are supposedly important somehow, maybe they could get moved once again by an animal in the area and then you've lost it, right? So I can understand when dealing with bones, remains, it's a serious situation and it needs to be handled with caution and care. That is why Candice Cooley, I guess, is very strict on the matter, right? And insistent on not having human presence, general public being in the area, because they could cause harm or disruption. But what I would say is, by now, 9 months on, is there much disruption you can cause when people have done what they've done since? I don't know. If the focus is on the wash, then are you going to really be coming across bones elsewhere, where like Lance was, unless something or someone disturbed the burial area of where Dylan's at, okay? And final thoughts, of course, if Dylan, which it seems to be the case, wherever he may be and how many times he may have been buried, right, once or more, seems to be the case, right? Well, if it is, then would you honestly expect to be finding bones of Dylan spread about in the open if he was buried underground? Let me know your thoughts. So I think we'll leave the video there for now. Hopefully you found the video interesting and of some use. Maybe there might be bone experts in the chat sometime down the line. You can give your input as well in the comment section. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see what happens next. Next video comes whenever it does. And yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye and good night for now.